Hi friends, so I am really excited to show you this card. In my last video I did a simple card using the Mountain Air stamp set, and I'd mentioned in the following video, this one, I would do a stepped up version. This is that card. I made this card for my sweetheart for Valentine's Day, so I've had to hide it. And I showed it to my friends last week and their jaws dropped. So I did tell them I was going to do a video on this. And my dad's 70th birthday is coming up, and I thought I would do pretty much the same card for his birthday. And it's great because my honey has a truck and it's blue just like that, and so does my dad. And my dad actually lives on Vancouver Island and he works in all of these forestry areas, so this is kind of the scene that my dad sees every day on the job, so he's quite lucky. There's a lot of work involved with this card, but oh my goodness, it's so much fun, and it's actually not as difficult as one might think. So I'm going to show you how to make this card. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is create the background. Now I am filming at nighttime. I normally film in the day, and I have my lamp on, but it's quite dark out the window, so hopefully the lighting is all right. So I have my sponge brayer. It's clean. It just looks dirty, but it's clean. And I am going to start with my So Saffron. Just spinning my ink pads around. Here we go. So this is kind of similar to the Gangs All Mirror video that I did recently. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my So Saffron in the middle. Now I'm taking my Calypso Coral and I'm going to go right along this section. This is going to be the green section for the grass, and this is going to be the blue for the sky. And I kind of wanted this to look like a sunrise. And when I'm trying to figure out the colors to use for sunsets and sunrises, I just do a Google image search and just find a picture that I like and just kind of go from there. And that's where I get my color combinations. Okay, now I'm taking my Balmy Blue. And I'm going to do the top section. And I am going to go down into that yellow a little bit, so that will make it a little bit on the green side, but that's okay. Now I'm taking my Pacific Point, and I'm going to add some Pacific Point up at the top. And then just work my way down. I'm going to take my So Saffron again, and I'm going to take a clean roller because this has the blue and everything on it, and I don't want that. And I just want to add a bit more yellow. Now I'm taking the Old Olive and I'm going to add some green for the grass. And some of this won't be seen because I'm going to have my die cuts on it anyways. But I do want to make sure I get some of that orange for the sunrise. So I want some of that orange to pop through behind the mountains. So now that I have that done, I am going to bring in my stamp set. So this is the Mountain Air stamp set. Love it. So I'm going to stamp this bold image of the mountain. So these are reversible stamps. So you've got the detailed image and then the bold image. So I'm going to start with the mountains in the bold image. And I am going to ink this with basic gray. I'm gonna stamp it right about there. So I still have some of that orange showing, but I do want a bit more, so I am going to add a bit more of that orange. Take my Calypso Coral again. And again, I'm going to have die cuts covering over those mountains. I just wanted them to kind of look like they're off in the distance. So I'll add some orange, some Calypso Coral. So it looks like the sun is coming up behind those mountains. There, that's good. Okay, so that's what I have for now. I will come back to that a little bit later. And I've just misted my stamp with water and making sure that both the stamp and the block are clean, and that is key to making these reversible stamps work. So now I've got the detailed edge, and I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And instead of basic gray, this time I'm going to stamp the mountains with Smoky Slate. There are my mountains. Now sliding that paper over, I'm taking the tree image and I'm going to stamp it in Mossy Meadow. I'm bringing this bit back in and I'm going to stamp the trees, but you're not going to see the trees because I'm going to add the die cut, but I kind of want this image down here to come down below, and you'll see how it all comes together as we go along. So I'm taking the Mossy Meadow again, and I'm just going to stamp it down like so. So you see how I kind of get that grass image down there. Okay, I'm going to move that aside again and bring this piece in because this is the piece that I'm going to be cutting everything out on. So now we have, it could be the moon. I'm using it as the earth. Okay, so I'm going to start with my garden green. So I'm just kind of going squiggly wiggly. That's the technical term. And now I'm taking my Night of Navy, and I'm just kind of adding in some color. And then I'm going to stamp it right there. So there's my earth. Pretty cool. Now the next thing I'm going to stamp are some of the trees. Okay, so this part is so fun. So all I'm doing is taking my early espresso marker and I'm going right up the center of the tree. So I'm just starting at the bottom, going up, and then I'm going to tap it kind of like a drum. So I'm just tapping kind of randomly, and that is going to be my branches. Okay. Then I'm going to lightly mist this with water and stamp. So I get a really cool look, but I'm going to do this again to add more detail. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Go right up. And then tap it. And then I'm going to stamp it right on top again. And I'm just offsetting it ever so slightly. Okay, now I'm moving on to the clouds. So I'm going to stamp this in the Balmy Blue. And I'm going to stamp out 2 of these. And then I'm not going to re-ink for the second one so that it's lighter. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm bringing in some basic gray cardstock. Take that cloud image and I'm going to stamp it in basic gray. Now the earth fits our 1-inch circle punch. So this is the old style circle punch. So there's my earth. So I'm going to set that aside. And I'm gonna bring in my big shot. Okay, so I've got my magnetic platform and my plate. So I'm gonna put this in. We're gonna cut the mountains first. So here are the Majestic mountain dies that coordinate. So you can see how there are a couple of trees that are quite big, and we don't have stamps for them, but that's okay because these are so detailed. So we're going to start with the mountains. There are my mountain die cuts. So I'm going to set those aside. Now I'm going to do the trees, but before I do that, I'm going to take my aqua painter. I want to blend some of that ink in, so I'm just going to pick up some of that ink and just pull it down so that we've got some grass. Okay, now it doesn't cut all the way around, so what I'm going to do is just tear it. Okay, so these two dies are the same, so you can do 2 trees at a time, which is pretty darn fantastic. So I'm putting them on Mossy Meadow. These are the beautiful detailed trees that we get with those dies. So nice. Okay, so this tree, I don't want it to be as big, so I didn't worry about popping out all the little bits because I'm literally just going to cut it down. Just snip off what would have been the branches so that I have a smaller tree. So now I'm taking my brown marker and I'm basically doing the same thing that I did on the stamped tree, where I take the brown and I'm gonna go right up the middle of the tree. Do that to both pieces. Then I'm just tapping it again back and forth to kind of make it look like I've got some wood branches in there. See how that brown looks really cool and breaks up the green. And then the smaller tree, really nice. All right, I am gonna start doing some gluing on here. So I'm gonna start with my mountains and Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm just going to stagger them off a little bit so that I get that background in there. That's good. And then just trim off the excess. So for my trees, I'm just taking my bone folder and just kind of going underneath it so that it bends a little bit. And I'm going to take my old olive and a sponge and just sponge around them, just to kind of hide those little white bits. And now I'm going to sponge on this tree. Put a couple dimensionals on and then add a couple more after I position this onto the card. This is such a fun card to make. When I was making the first one, it was literally just a play day, just making the card for my sweetheart, and oh my gosh, just so much fun. So this is too, especially making it for my dad. There's a lot of love going into this card. So I'm just gonna put it right there and then put another dimensional on. This tree, I'm gonna take a dimensional and I'm just putting it on the bottom portion. I'm gonna put it right over here. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in my silicone mat and my detailed die cut trees and squeeze out a bit of glue and just grab a sponge and lightly sponge some glue on. So this is the other stamp set I'm using. It's Pedal to the Metal. So I'm going to take the tire tracks and stamp a couple of them onto this bottom portion. I'm going to use mossy metal for that. Meant to do this beforehand and forgot. So I'm just going to stamp right there and right there. Now I can add some of these rocks. So I'm just going to put this one right about there. A dimensional behind my earth. And I think it wanted to go like that. And I'm tucking that behind the tree as well. And then a little bit of glue. And then just set that on top. Okay, so now I'm going to take my clouds. So I'm going to take the darker of the two images and put that on first. Oops. And I'm going to put that right about there. And then a dimensional. And I'm going to put that on top and just stagger it just a tiny bit. So I love birds in my scenes, so I have to add some birds. So I hit pause and forgot to turn it back on, but I took this image here from the Sailing Home stamp set and I inked it with black StazOn onto my card because I love having birds on these types of scenes. But if you notice, there's a little smudge of black ink there. I didn't want to get there, but I'll show you how you fix that. I'm taking my basic black marker and I'm taking the fine journaling end and I'm going to turn it into a little bird just by adding another little wing. See? So it's another bird. But because there's 4 birds there and odd numbers work best, I'm going to add another one right about here. And maybe one more. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my card base, and I'm just using basic black. So now it's time to add the truck, and I'm going to ink it with my StazOn. Now I'm going to color this in using my aqua painter and my Night of Navy ink pad. Slate for the tires. And now some basic gray. Side spray for the glass. Daffodil Delight for the headlights. That is colored. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut that with my scissors. Okay, so now my truck is cut out. I want to add some texture to this. So I'm going to take my Versamark ink pad and just cover the entire piece. Now that this is thoroughly covered with the Versamark ink pad, I'm going to sprinkle on clear embossing powder and set it with the heat tool. Super cool now that it's all shiny and has that gloss, just as the truck would. So again, just bending it a little bit, and now I'm going to position it onto my card. So now I'm going to take the backing off a dimensional, that up with my tool, and then just pop that behind this bit. Okay, so bit of fussy cutting coming up. I'm using our snow front stamp set because I want to add some deer to this scene. So I'm going to stamp them and I'm going to cut them out. This is definitely a card for someone that you love. It's not a card that you would be mass producing by any means. So I'm using soft suede. And I only need 3, but of course I'm going to stamp out both sets of deer. And I'm not gonna lie, as much as I love fussy cutting, these deer take a little bit of time trying to get in between the little legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start cutting them, and then I will be right back. Okay, I got my little deer cut, and I also added eyes and nose with my black marker. So now I'm going to put these on my card with a glue dot. This one, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom of his feet because I want to have them pressed down onto the card. All that's left is adding my sentiment and stamping the inside. Here's the first one that I made. The sentiment here is actually from the same Petal to the Metal stamp set, which you can see here, but this card that's going to be from my dad, I want to stamp something different. I will put a picture in the video as soon as that's done. All in all, it has taken me about an hour to do this card. And here's the one I made for my honey. And the inside, I should mention, I stamped it just using the bold image of the mountains, and I just stamped it in different directions using balmy blue and smoky slate, and that just created a really fun background. And then I'll add my Happy Valentine's Day and my sentiment. As soon as I saw the new Mountain Air bundle and the Petal to the Metal stamp sets in our new catalog, I knew I had to make a card using the 2 of them, and they're just perfect for each other. Here's the card in my last video using the same stamp set. Very, very simple, but I couldn't resist doing a video of this card with all the extra die cuts and elements. So thank you for watching. Have a great day and happy stamping.